The night sky over Earth was never meant to look like this. Above the cities, the stars were no longer quiet points of light. They were moving. Hundreds of them. They burned bright white, red, and gold as they slid across the heavens in tight formation. People on rooftops, streets, and balconies pointed their phones upward. Recording what would be the most terrifying sight in human history, it began in silence. No thunder, no explosions, just the steady movement of alien warships taking their positions over the planet. Then the first sound came, a deep, rumbling hum that seemed to vibrate through the bones of anyone listening. It wasn't thunder. It was the resonance of engines built for war. News broadcasts cut into every program. Anchors spoke with trembling voices. The words unknown origin, an extraterrestrial fleet repeated again and again. Military experts on the screens tried to sound calm, but their eyes betrayed them. In every major city, sirens began to howl. People poured into underground shelters. Families clung to each other. Children cried without understanding why. Then it came the broadcast. The voice was not human. It was deep, harsh, and layered, like several voices speaking in unison. The translation came instantly, as though the invaders had been preparing for years. This planet is now property of the core Dominion. You will surrender all defenses immediately. You will obey, or you will be erased. You have 1 hour to comply. The message played on every screen, every radio, every device. It repeated twice, then the signal cut. Above the world, the alien fleet spread wider. Massive ships, some longer than cities, blocked out the stars. Sleek attack vessels darted between them, their hulls glowing faint blue. They looked like predators circling a trapped prey. On the ground, panic began. Some people screamed, some prayed, and some stood frozen, staring at the sky as if hypnotized. In Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and dozens of other hidden command bunkers, human leaders met with military commanders. Maps glowed on digital tables. Enemy positions were marked in red. "We cannot outgun them in orbit," one general said grimly. "Their shields will eat anything we throw at them." Another voice spoke from the corner, calm and measured, "And we won't fight them in." Orbit eyes turned toward him. A tall, gray-haired officer leaned forward and placed a small device on the table. With a quiet click, he activated it. The holographic display showed not the alien ships, but Earth itself. "We've been waiting for something like this," he said, "and we built the answer where they'll never expect it." No one in the room smiled, but there was a flicker of something in their eyes, not fear, anticipation. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, far below the reach of sunlight, machines that had slept for decades began to stir. Lights flickered to life in pitch-black depths. Long metal shapes shifted in, their cradles. From the poles, strange bursts of electromagnetic noise erupted into space. To the aliens, it was meaningless static. To the right ears, it was a signal call. The Corps commander, orbiting above in a massive black iron flagship, studied the planet through his viewing screen. The humans were doing exactly what he expected, running, hiding, scattering like insects. "Pathetic," he muttered in his own language. His second-in-command laughed. "Shall we begin surface operations? Deploy scouts?" the commander ordered. "I want their defenses stripped before the hour is over." Small landing craft detached from the fleet, streaking down into the atmosphere. They vanished into clouds, heading for major population centers. None of them knew the streets would be empty when they arrived in New York, Tokyo, and Cape Town. The sound of alien engines echoed through deserted avenues. The only movement came from flapping newspapers and the distant creak of abandoned cars rocking in the wind. The scouts reported back with confusion. "Cities are silent. No resistance. No civilians." The Corps commander grinned. "They are hiding in the countryside. Sweep the land. Flush them out." He had no idea the humans were watching his every move. In a control room, buried under ice in Antarctica, technicians monitored the alien fleet with calm precision. Every ship was tagged, tracked, and analyzed. One of the officers leaned toward his superior. "Shall we start the timer, sir?" The older man nodded. Yes. Phase 1 begins now. Somewhere in the deep ocean, an ancient signal pulsed again, louder this time. It wasn't a distress call. It was an invitation. The countdown clock appeared on the command center's main display, 48 hours. That was all the time the core Dominion had left, though they didn't know it yet, in orbit. The alien commander turned away from his view screen, confident victory was already his. Below, on a planet they thought was helpless, humanity's trap was quietly closing, and far, far away in the cold void, something answered the signal. The alien fleet moved across the planet like a steel storm. From orbit, they could see every coastline, every city, every river. Their scanners mapped every mountain and desert in perfect detail. The core Dominion had done this before dozens of times. They had broken worlds, shattered civilizations, and erased species from history. To them, Earth was no different. But as hours passed, something about this invasion felt wrong. Their patrol ships flew over empty streets. Entire megacities were abandoned, yet there were no signs of chaos, no burning buildings, no bodies, no wreckage. It was as if the humans had simply vanished. On board the flagship Vorak, the Corps commander stood before the main display. Report, he demanded. A scout officer spoke. We have entered 6 major human settlements. All are deserted. No military presence detected. No civilians. Life readings suggest small groups underground, but there is no organized defense. The commander's mouth twisted in contempt. They flee like prey. Begin the resource sweep. Seize their communication centers, energy stations, and orbital relays. Once they have nothing left, they will crawl to us and beg for mercy. The order went out. Alien units spread into the wilderness, scanning forests, valleys, and mountain ranges. In South America, a group of soldiers marched into the Amazon jungle. The thick air smelled of rain and soil. Their scanners picked up faint heat signatures ahead, but when they reached the location, they found only old stone ruins, half covered in vines. One soldier tilted his head. Commander, we found something. The stone walls were carved with strange markings, not human writing as the Corps knew it, but sharp lines and patterns that made the aliens' vision blur when they stared too long. The commander dismissed it. Primitive art? Keep moving. In the Arctic, another scout team found an abandoned research station. The walls were covered in frost, the power dead, yet every screen in the station displayed the same frozen image, a countdown clock, ticking. Down from 47 hours, 32 minutes, no one could explain it. Meanwhile, in a hidden bunker deep under London, a group of human officers studied the alien movements. They were calm, speaking in low voices, as though watching a chess game they had already won. They've begun surface sweeps, one officer said. Just as predicted. An older man with sharp eyes nodded. Good. The longer they stay scattered, the better. Our weapons work best when they don't know where to look. On the other side of the world, in the Pacific Ocean, alien ships formed a blockade. Their mission was simple: stop any human escape attempt. They had no idea what was beneath them. The ocean's surface was calm, but miles below, enormous shadows drifted through the dark. Shapes too large to be submarines, too silent to be whales. Their movements stirred deep currents that carried, for hundreds of miles. A Corps battleship lowered its sensors into the Mariana Trench. Strange readings flickered on their screens, massive structures embedded in the seabed. Glowing faintly, the ship's captain ordered a closer scan. That was his final mistake. From the darkness, something moved. Faster than their eyes could follow, a massive object struck the underside of the ship. The impact was so powerful the hull screamed under the pressure. The alien crew tried to react, but their ship was already being pulled down into the deep. On the flagship, alarms flared. We have lost contact with Drellmore, a technician reported. Cause: unknown. Commander: no explosion detected. No debris found. It is gone. The commander's eyes narrowed. Losing a single ship was nothing in war. But this was not how ships were lost, as the Corps prepared to investigate. Far beyond their sensors, something vast stirred in the depths of the ocean, something that had been waiting for decades. And above, in human bunkers, the countdown clock kept ticking. 40-7. Hours left. The disappearance of the first battleship unsettled the Corps commander, but he refused to show it. Losing a ship to human weapons was impossible. Earth didn't have the technology. At least, that's what he kept telling himself. To prove it, he sent more. 10 patrol ships descended into the Pacific, their sensors sweeping the waters below. The alien crews joked over the coms, mocking the humans for hiding in the ocean. They had no idea that none of them would ever return. The first ship to vanish was Varric. One moment it was reporting normal readings, the next, the signal cut. Too static. No explosion, no emergency beacon, just silence. The second ship tried to locate Vorik and disappeared the same way. In less than 20 minutes, 3 ships were gone. The others began retreating toward the fleet, their engines burning. Hot. But the sea would not let them go. From the trench below, vast metallic arms, each longer than a city block, rose out of the darkness. They wrapped around the fleeing ships with crushing force. The aliens opened fire, but their plasma bolts fizzled into nothing before reaching the target. The last transmission from one crew was a scream followed by a deep, low rumble, something alive, answering their weapons with its own roar. On the flagship, reports poured in. The Corps commander slammed his fist onto the console. They are hiding something beneath the oceans. Find it. Destroy it. His second in command hesitated. Commander, what if it is not human? The commander stared at him for a long moment, before looking back at the planet. Then it will die with them. Far below the chaos, in a bunker under Antarctica's ice, human officers monitored the alien fleet's confusion. One of them spoke into a secure channel. Phase 1 is complete. Initiating Phase 2. From Earth's magnetic poles, enormous, bursts of energy surged into space. To the alien sensors, it looked like background noise. They ignored it. That ignorance would be their doom across the galaxy. Far beyond the Corps Dominion's borders, a derelict ship drifted in deep space. Its crew had been in stasis for centuries. When the strange pulse reached it, lights began to flicker on. Stasis pods hissed open. Figures stepped out, tall and armored in designs not seen in living memory. Back on Earth, the Corps ships reformed into tighter orbit. The commander ordered a full surface bombardment. If the humans wanted to hide, they would burn their planet. 2 ashes, but before the first shot was fired, flagship sensors lit up with dozens of new contacts, fast-moving, unidentified objects rising from the moon's dark side. They were sleek, black, and almost invisible to radar. The commander's eyes narrowed. What is that? No one answered. The objects were coming straight for them. The unidentified objects closed the distance faster than any ship in the Corps Dominion's records. They moved in complete silence, without energy signatures, as if the void itself had given them form by the time the alien fleet registered them as a threat. They were already inside weapons range. The first blast came without warning, a narrow beam of white light that tore straight through a core. Cruisers' shields and split, the ship in half like paper. There was no explosion. It's only a blinding flash and drifting fragments where a warship had been seconds earlier. On the flagship, the commander shouted orders. Target those ships. Fire everything. The fleet obeyed, unleashing a storm of plasma and railfire. But every shot missed. The black vessels danced between the blasts with impossible precision, twisting and turning in ways that defied known physics. They didn't fight like warships, they hunted like predators. In the Pacific blockade zone, the situation worsened. The alien vessels guarding the oceans began receiving distress calls from the orbital fleet. In their distraction, they failed to notice the water beneath them growing restless. Massive shadows stirred below, larger than the ships themselves. One alien destroyer dipped sensors into the depths, searching for threats. What returned was not data, but a sound, a low, rising note like metal grinding against stone, carrying. Through water and steel alike, the crew froze. Then something vast slammed into their hull from below. sending the destroyer tumbling end over end before vanishing into the dark. The Corps commander's focus snapped between space and sea, realizing the attacks were coordinated. "They're not hiding," he growled. "They're bleeding us dry." On Earth's surface, humanity was not idle. Across hidden bases, doors as thick as mountain walls slid open. Sleek aircraft unmarked, matte black, and shaped for stealth launched. Into the skies, they climbed higher and higher, then pierced the edge of space to join the unknown black ships already tearing into the Corps formation in the Antarctic command bunker. A voice reported calmly, "Lunar assets engaged. Ocean assets holding position. Alien losses at 20%. Another officer leaned toward the commander. "Do we release the Guardians?" The commander shook his head. "Not yet. Let them think they can still win. We want them desperate. Before we show them everything," above the alien flagship's shields flared under a direct hit from one of the black vessels. It didn't destroy the ship, but it cut deep enough to show the Corps commander something he hadn't seen in 1,000 battles. His ship was vulnerable, and for the first time since arriving at Earth, a flicker of unease passed through his mind. He had come here to conquer. But something told him they had stepped into a war humanity had been preparing for a very, very long time. Far below the ice, the countdown continued. 42 hours left. The battle in orbit grew wilder with every passing minute. The sleek black human ships didn't fight like any military the Corps had ever faced. They didn't form lines or hold formations. They struck from unexpected angles, disappearing into the void, only to reappear behind their targets. Each hit from their strange beam weapons ignored the Corps' vaunted shields, slicing through armor like heat through ice. Entire ships went dark in seconds. Their power cores shattered before the crew even knew they'd been targeted. The Corps commander's voice roared over the fleet's comms. "Hold position! Regroup! Overwhelm them with numbers!" But numbers meant nothing when your enemy moved faster than your weapons could track. Below, on the surface of the Pacific, alien blockade ships were faring no better. The sea boiled as the shadows from the depths surged upward. Towering shapes, metal and bone, machine and living creature fused together, broke the surface for the first time in decades. Their armored hides reflected alien fire like raindrops sliding off stone. Some carried colossal weapons on their backs, firing bursts of energy that lit the night sky. Others simply rammed alien ships with unstoppable force, dragging them down into the black dot in the Antarctic command bunker. The human commander watched a wall of screens showing every theater of battle. "They're pushing harder," an officer reported. "Good," the commander replied. "The more they commit, the faster they fall." Another officer leaned in. "Sir, orbital losses are reaching 40%. We could press to full assault now." "Not yet," the commander said firmly. "Let the Corps believe they still have a chance. Then we break them in one strike." In orbit, the Corps flagship finally managed to land a hit on one of the black human vessels. The alien crew cheered as the enemy ship's hull cracked until it broke apart, not from their weapon, but by choice, splitting into 3 smaller craft that scattered in every direction. The wounded ship had been a decoy. The Corps commander slammed a clawed hand on the console. "These things are not primitive. How did they build this fleet without our spies noticing?" The truth was, the fleet had not been built in shipyards. It had been waiting, for over a century, hidden in lunar craters under the oceans. And inside hollowed mountains, Earth's war machines had been sleeping ready for the day an enemy came too close. Now, as the 40-hour mark approached, the trap was ready to spring fully. In the deepest vault beneath Antarctica, a final set of coordinates unlocked. Massive generators roared to life. Above them, buried in the ice for longer than human history, something ancient began to awaken, and in orbit. The Corps fleet, bloodied but not broken, prepared for what they believed would be their final push. They had no idea that the real battle hadn't even started yet. The Corps Dominion was running out of time. They didn't know it. From orbit, the human black ships continued to tear through their ranks, yet the commander refused to retreat. Pride and rage burned hotter than reason. Every victory in Corps history had been won through overwhelming force. and he believed Earth would be no different. That belief was about to kill him. He ordered the surviving ships to converge around the flagship, forming a dense wall of firepower. In the center of this formation, technicians worked frantically to prepare the Dominion's most feared weapon, planet killer capable of burning away Earth's atmosphere in minutes. It was a desperate move. But the commander convinced himself it would end the fight in one decisive strike. From the Antarctic bunker, human eyes watched every move. The commander there, an older man with weathered skin, spoke in a low voice. "They're arming it. They think this is the final battle. Should we deploy the Guardians?" an officer asked. The man nodded slowly. "Phase 3. Release them." Deep in the Mariana Trench, enormous armored shapes detached from the seabed. Their size was staggering, each as large as a city, built from black alloy and strange living tissue. They rose toward the surface in total silence, leaving only faint ripples above. When they broke the water, the core blockade ships saw them for the first time and froze. These were not submarines, not battleships. They were something far older. Something built for a war the galaxy had forgotten. The Guardians opened fire. Their weapons were not beams or missiles, but columns of burning light that seemed to tear through reality itself. Alien ships disintegrated instantly, hulls unraveling as if they had never been whole. The blockade shattered in minutes. In orbit, the core fleet's formation collapsed under simultaneous strikes from the Guardians below and the black human ships above. The planet killer weapon, still charging, became the primary target. The humans didn't fire on it immediately. Instead, something even larger emerged from the shadow of the moon. The alien commander stared at it through his viewing screen, and for the first time since the invasion began, his voice faltered. "That is not possible." It was an orbital platform the size of a small continent, black as the void, covered in rows of weapons the core couldn't identify. Its surface glowed with thin crimson lines, as if it were waking from a long sleep. In the Antarctic bunker, the human commander gave the order. "Fire." A single shot left the platform. It was silent, yet the space between it and the planet killer bent and rippled as it traveled. The weapon struck, and the core's ultimate super weapon was gone, split neatly in two, its remains drifting into the void. The alien fleet broke. Some tried to flee toward the edge of the system, but the black ships moved to cut them off. Others turned their weapons toward Earth in blind desperation, but the Guardians' fire swallowed them before their shots could land. Above the planet, the once-proud core Dominion was reduced to burning wreckage. And still, the countdown ticked away. 31 hours left. Silence fell over Earth's orbit for the first time in 2 days, where the core Dominion fleet had once hung like a storm cloud. There was now only drifting debris-shattered hulls, broken weapons, and lifeless fragments spinning slowly in the void. The black human ships moved among them like shadows, scanning for any sign of survivors, but finding none. In the Antarctic command bunker, the commander stood before the giant countdown clock. It now read 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. Slowly, he reached forward and deactivated it. The war was over. But the truth was, it had never really been a war. It had been an execution. For 48 hours, humanity had bled the invaders piece by piece, never showing its full hand until the final moment. The core had walked into a battlefield that Earth had been building for more than a century, a trap woven into the oceans. The moon, the poles, even the crust of the planet itself. Around the world, civilians emerged from the underground shelters, where they had been hidden since the first hour of the invasion. Many had not even heard the sounds of battle. The fight had been swift, surgical, and relentless. Far above, the last few core escape craft were intercepted before they could reach hyperspace. Human ships disabled them without destroying them, towing the alien vessels into secure orbits. The prisoners would be questioned, though no one expected them to reveal much. On the flagship wreck, the core commander sat slumped in what remained of his command chair. The fire in his eyes was gone, replaced by a hollow emptiness. He had underestimated the humans, as so many had before. His last thought before unconsciousness claimed him was not of defeat, but of warning, and that warning was already spreading, light years away. In the core of another alien empire, a message arrived through encrypted channels. It was short and carried the highest priority. The core's final distress signal, sent just before the battle's end, had only 3 words: do not approach. The alien council who received it argued for hours. Some dismissed it as the desperate ramblings of a failed conquest. Others, the older ones, grew pale. They remembered whispers from 1,000 years ago, edges of a world on the edge of the spiral arm. A world the ancients had agreed to leave untouched. The humans called it Earth. On that world, black ships and ocean guardians returned to their hidden vaults. The orbital platform powered down, its red lines fading to darkness. The world returned to its ordinary rhythms, as if nothing had happened. But somewhere in the deep black between stars, other predators had heard the story, and they would remember the lesson the core Dominion learned too late. Invade Earth, they said. Gordy. Hours later, the fleet was gone.